name is Garrett Thompson. I'm coming to you live from a dorm room at Humber campus. And this is Dorm Room Sports Podcast, Episode 1. Tonight, we will be talking about a few things. We'll be talking about the Leafs game last night when they played the Philadelphia Flyers. And then throughout the rest of the video, I'm just going to be talking about teams that I was shocked about this year that haven't done as well as they were scouted to. Teams that I think will do well next year and teams who I think really need to improve. So we're going to start off right away with the Leafs game last night. The Toronto Maple Leafs lost to the Philadelphia Flyers 5-4 in a shootout. Leafs, fun fact, Leafs' first shootout of the year. They have been playing actual hockey all season, not going into the shootout to decide some game. Starts off right away. Connor Brown gets his 7th of the season from Tyler Ennis and Frederic Gauthier. Tyler Ennis in and out of the lineup. I was really impressed with him. He played really well. He's been playing well all season, and I don't think he's gotten as much recognition as I think he deserves. All year he's just been playing well. That fourth line, when they really want to be good, they are very good. They may not have the pieces that you would think would make up an amazing line, but all those guys just grind and they play really well. And I think it's really worked out for the Leafs. They have a really strong fourth line, and going into the playoffs against a team like the Boston Bruins, having a fourth line depth as a part of your depth as a team is not too shabby at all. So Connor Brown scores. Tyler Ennis working down low, feeds it out in front. Very similar to the Brian Boyle pass in 2017. Fed it to Kapanen. Kapanen put it in the empty net for the Leafs to tie the series 1-1 against the Capitals. Beautiful pass. Second goal, Nazem Kadri. Really interesting play because he was out on a line. He was out in the line. It was a bit of a mix of a line change, but they kept the play going up the ice, and the rest of the line didn't change, and Kadri was just sitting right there, and he got a pass and beat Carter Hart, who notably played very well in this game. He's been playing well all season, and I'm really impressed. I've really liked him as a rookie. He's played really well. He had career record stats with Everett in the WHL. He didn't have the best season in the AHL, but they brought him up here, and he's stole the show. He's 10-7-1. Very good for a rookie. And Sportsnet last night showed a stat that said that with the higher number of saves, oh no, it wasn't Sportsnet, it was CSN or whoever was covering it from the American side of the game, said that he plays better with more shots. It said above 35 shots, he's 8-0 with a high 900 save percentage. It's incredible. So he's played really well all season, and he did play well tonight. The Leafs really were bringing it for most of the game. Second period doesn't really represent that, but they were bringing it for most of the game, especially early on. Kadri beats him on a questionable play. As a goalie, that's a weird goal to let in, because sometimes you could say it was a bit more on him, but at the same time, Philadelphia gave it up, and it was just a mix around all in front of the net, and it went in, so it was 2-0 going into the first intermission. I'm thinking that's great. We're doing well. It looks good. We look like we're going to be sending them home from the playoffs, and it's going to look good. Send them home from the playoff push. Second period, I'm looking at the stats right now on the score. Travis Konechny scores. It was a good goal. It snuck right in. It was perfect shot. There's not much Frederik Andersen could do. Radko Gudas scores. Doesn't do that too much, and it kind of annoys me when a defenseman scores on our team, because it's normally very easy to stop, because it's normally from the point, and it's something that Freddie should see. I didn't see the goal, so I'm not sure exactly how it went in. Then Sean Couturier scores. Sean Couturier leading the team in scoring. No one talks about him. He's strong. He's good. He's a good player. Skates hard. I'm shocked that nobody talks about him as much as they should. He's a great skater. He's a good player. He's a bit of a sleeper player. No one really brings him up when you think of skilled guys on a team. Going into the third, Austin scores an Austin way. Nobody else could score the way he does. Puts it in from an impossible angle, basically on the red line. It was incredible. A great goal. Ties him back up. Ryan Hartman, who I think he's okay. He's not the best. It's 12th of the season for him. And he makes it 4-3. William Nylander, who has been a pain in, I think, Leafs Nation's ass all season long, especially during his contract talks, which was stupid. Like, it took him so long to sign when that wasn't needed. He comes onto the team. He's had a bit of a slow start. He could have been so much better if he had started off at the beginning of the year. I'm happy he's here, though, because he's ridiculous when he wants to be. If he's not, then the reason why he's not playing the way he should be playing is beyond me. And then we go to the shootout. Overtime, chances back and forth, as there should be. And then we go to a shootout. I was watching Steve Dangle's review, and he said a really funny point. He said it was a drill. I agree with him. Shootout should not be the way to solve a game. A game that all teams are playing well. It's just it's a drill. It shouldn't be the way. If a goaltender's having a great game, that's not how it should be solved. Like, there's been a couple of shootouts I've seen in the past couple of years that are 0-0 through overtime. Everybody's playing well. Both goalies have stood on their head. They go into the shootout, and they lose through a shootout. If I was a goalie, I would want to lose. If I were to lose a game where we've all tried really hard, I would want to lose it in overtime because at least it's fair. Like, both teams have had chances, not in a shootout where there's goalies that are strict, that one of their big skills is a shootout. They shouldn't be able, if your goalie's having a great game but he's not the best in the shootout, you shouldn't be able to decide your great game in a shootout format. You should just be able to let 3-on-3 go and go and go and go. All the sports anchors have all talked about this. They all want it to just be 3-on-3, but they won't change it. It was brought in at 2006 because they didn't want to have, at the end of overtime, they didn't want to have tie games. They wanted to be able to run it and see what happens. I think they should have just kept overtime. They should have just kept overtime, or they at least take away shootout and just make it 3-on-3 consistently like they do in the playoffs. Where, of course, in the playoffs it's 5-on-5. Here they should have just kept it going. They should just be able to keep it going 3-on-3. It's fast. Teams really show their speed. They show their skill. They show how they pass. They show how they talk. Talking's important. So, as we all know, shooters go by. Marner, Ennis goes. Ennis is actually really good in the shootout. And then John Tavares steps up. Now, I've seen a bit of heat coming his way about the fact that the puck rolled on him. That could have happened to anyone. If this had happened to Philadelphia, Leafs fans would have been giving whoever it was heat about losing the puck. It happens to the Leafs, and now Philadelphia Flyer fans are giving him heat. It's unlucky. It's a bounce in the wrong direction. It bounces off his stick. He said he doesn't know that's just how it goes sometimes. That's what he said at the end of the game. It's just the bounces you get. If you don't get a bounce in your direction, it's not the end of the world. We're basically locked into the playoffs. Long term, it doesn't really matter. Going into the playoffs, there's no shootout anyways. Yeah, it stings that, like, that's how the shootout's gonna end, but it's just the bounces you get. Philadelphia gets the 2 points. They stay in the playoff race. Although it's not looking great because the conference that they're in, one, is so highly skilled. But looking at the Western Conference, anything can happen. Like, earlier on in the season, top 14 teams were all separated by a point or two. It was really weird. So now we're going to talk about just some general standings and news and what I'm shocked about, what I'm not shocked about. We're going to talk about the Eastern Conference first. Now, teams that I'm shocked and not shocked about. Buffalo. Now, I don't know if there's any Buffalo fans watching because I have 14 followers on the Instagram page that would have a chance to connect onto the YouTube page where this will be posted. Most of them are computers, so I don't know if they'll be seeing this. But anybody who has stumbled upon the page and wants to watch this video and you are a Buffalo Sabres fan, listen. I don't know. I know that everybody's like, oh, they're going to tank and they're going to be better next year. You guys were good this year. It's not that you guys are an amazing team. You've got Eichel, though. You've got Skinner. You've got Reinhart. You've got Dahlin. You've got pretty good goaltending, like Carter Hutton and everybody. Like, Carter Hutton's a good starting goaltender. Linus Ullmark, I don't know why I forgot his name. They're both decently good goalies, and they showed that they could be good. That 10-0 run, that was good hockey. Like, you were playing well, you were skating hard, and you showed that you could be a playoff contender. You were top of the league. And then suddenly it tanks. Now, I don't think there's really an excuse for that. I think they could have easily made the playoffs. The Vegas Golden Knights had 4 lines of third liners and second liners. Teams didn't want those players, so they went to Vegas, and Vegas made the Stanley Cup final with a bunch of third and second and fourth line guys. William Karlsson, 6 goals the year before with Columbus, 42. They gave him a chance to go, and he ran with it. He's played pretty well this year too. I'm not sure of his exact stats in terms of scoring. He played really, really well last year. He's played well this year, so it wasn't a fluke because they signed him to a 1-year, $6 million contract. So it was more of a bridge deal to see what he would do. I would think they would sign him long term. I would sign him long term if I was the general manager. Looking at Buffalo, I don't really think there's an excuse why they wouldn't be top 8 in the league. They would be in the playoff race. They should be. They were in the playoff race. They were in first in the league by a good amount too. I was shocked when this happened because generally in the last couple of years, Buffalo's not been good at all. But looking at them, they had every possibility to be still top 8 in the league now. Ottawa. Ottawa pisses me off very much. Not just because I'm a Leafs fan, but because I'm a hockey fan. And Eugene Melnyk calling out the Leafs, first of all, and like not having defense, I wouldn't be talking. You don't have your first overall pick. You traded away everybody. Oh, we're in a rebuild. You rebuild with key pieces. You don't have anyone. You traded away all of your key pieces. You were good 1 year. And that's when you had Hoffman and you had Karlsson and you had everybody. That was the year that you could have done it. You brought in Duchesne. You had the potential to do well with Duchesne and some of the guys that you had. I get it. Hoffman, there was some behind-the-scenes stuff that made you trade him away. That could have been dealt with and you could have kept him. You're in a rebuild, though. Generally, you would be in a rebuild with picks. You don't have your first overall pick. That's a problem because now you're going into the draft with nothing. You're going to go into next year. You are not going to be a playoff team for excessive amount of probably 4 or 5 years, just looking at where you are now. Granted, you do have some good guys in the system. Christian Wolanin is good. He's a very good player. You've got Thomas Chabot. That's your future. You've got some decent goaltending coming up into the system. They're good. They're strong. The Belleville Senators are doing pretty well this season, as far as I know. And I don't know why. Like, I don't know. They really tick me off. I'll just put it that way. Western Conference. Calgary Flames. I posted a photo of the teams that made the playoffs as of that date that were locked in, and that hasn't changed. No other new teams have made the playoffs. I'm shocked that you've made the playoffs. I mean, it's incredible. Like, you've got a great team. You're strong. You're fast. You've got you've got pretty good depth in all your lines. Your goaltending, I'm interested to see how it does in the playoffs because you look at Mike Smith and you look at his numbers. That's not a top of the league goaltending numbers. It's not. He's good, and he has been good, and he led the Coyotes in 2012 to the Eastern Conference Final when you got beaten out by LA. He led you there. He led them there, and it was good. That was good goaltending. He's not played well this year. Didn't play well last year. They didn't make the playoffs last year. David Rittich has the potential to be an NHL number 1 goaltender. Going into the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised if they started Rittich over Smith, but he's still not as strong as you would want your starting goaltender, especially in the playoffs, to be. He's got a very weak 5-hole. Their tandem stats are not top of the league. They're low in the league for sure. I'm interested to see. I'm worried because I want to see a Canadian team go far. I want the Leafs to go far. I think they'll go far. Looking in the West, the Winnipeg Jets will be good in the playoffs. They've got strong goaltending. They've got 4 lines that are all good. They're all strong. They run on a system, and it works really well. Calgary, though, I'm going to be shocked if you make it to the second round. Not because of your offense. You can only score your way out of games. The Leafs have done it this year. They've scored their way out of games with Sparks in net normally. But you can't score your way out of games in the playoffs, because in the playoffs, especially in what I've seen in Western teams, they hit a whole new gear. Teams who know how to play in the playoffs hit a new gear, and they're going to go. If you play a team like even Arizona in the first round, who I'm really rooting for to make the playoffs, they're in the fight right now. They're in 9th. They're tied with Colorado for 8th in the league with 77 points. There's actually a 3-way tie: Arizona, Dallas, and Colorado. Looking at the record, Arizona, come the end of the season, will make the playoffs. They have 37 wins to Colorado's 35. They'll make the playoffs. If it ended today, Arizona would be in the playoffs, and Colorado would not be. I want Arizona to make the playoffs. Absolutely, I do. I'd love to see them make the playoffs. They've got. I like Darcy Kemper. I like how he's played. He came in after Antti Ranta is out for the season. I would hate to be Ranta, because you're out for the 1 year that your team is in the playoff hunt. Getting back to Calgary, though, if you play a team like even Arizona in the first round, even though they don't have a lot of playoff experience, they would give Calgary a run for the money. Absolutely, they would. You can't score your way out of problems in the playoffs, even against a team like Arizona. Granted, Arizona hasn't made the playoffs in a while, so even if you did make it to the second round, you wouldn't make it past the second round with the goaltending that you have. It makes sense. Your entire team needs to be running at 100%. And looking at it this year, Calgary's goaltending has not been where it needs to be. Now, we're going to go a bit farther down the stat list. Edmonton. Oh, Edmonton. I love you. You're a team that doesn't know whether they need to be in a rebuild or what to do. They were looked at as a team that could very well make the playoffs. They could very well make the playoffs. Right now, they're 76 points out. They're 76 points. They're 1 point behind the... Oh, goodness me. I was wrong. There's 4 teams tied. Minnesota has 77 as well. Minnesota, though, has Minnesota has 35 wins. 37 wins and 35 wins for Colorado. So if Edmonton could step it up, they could technically make it, but your only reason you are even in slightly the playoff hunt is because of Draisaitl, McDavid, and Nugent Hopkins. That's the only reason why you're even sniffing at the playoffs. After your first line, who do you have? Who? You have no one. You've traded away everybody. Keep in mind, Peter Chiarelli is a big part of that, trading away Eberle and Hall and the pick that would have been Barzal. You traded away all these people. You could have still gotten McDavid. You would have had a line of Barzal, Nugent Hopkins, and McDavid on your first power play line. That's the first one. The second one could have been Draisaitl, Eberle, and Hall, or your first line could have been on just the regular, not even the power play. It could have been McDavid, Barzal, and Hall, and then the second line could have been Draisaitl, Eberle, and Nugent Hopkins. That's 2 lines. You could have kept a bunch of your pieces that you've traded away. I can't name them all, but you could have had depth. You could have made the playoffs. But Peter Chiarelli traded everybody away. Now, trading away Hall for Larson. Larson's a good defenseman, and he's a good defenseman. He's a good player to have. I would want him on the Leafs. He's a good player. But looking at how well Hall has played, how well Hall played even for Edmonton, and how well Larson's played, it's a forward that is a heart winner and a defenseman that is questionable. You could look at it as an absolute steal for the Devils. The Devils aren't even in the playoffs. They're out already. But I don't even think Hall's playing right now. I think he's injured. But looking at a team like that, it's terrible. Like, Chiarelli really messed them up. And it sucks because I heard a rumor that the only reason why Hall was traded was because he was a bad influence on McDavid. Now, you're in the NHL. You're a grown man. You know you shouldn't use the excuse of the guys you have around you to be who influences you in terms of how you are outside of the game. And it's interesting to see how they treated him. They traded him away. They traded him away, and it's ridiculous because it shouldn't have been an excuse to trade him away. I mean, like, don't say that because of the attitude that Hall gave in terms of partying with McDavid, that McDavid was influenced and that's why you traded him away. That was the rumor that was going around. I don't know if that's for sure, but that was one of the rumors. That's not an excuse. You pull him aside and say, look, if you're influencing our rookie to do things that we don't want him to do, stop. That's it. That's all you do. I don't know if they've had these talks and it wouldn't work, but that's not an excuse to trade somebody. You're threatening your team. You're threatening you're threatening your team in the numerous ways. And after Hall left, the floodgates opened and everybody got traded away. They're not bad players. Like, they were traded away for assets that ended up getting traded away, and it was a circle. You traded for, who was it? I forget. Ryan Strome. You traded for Ryan Strome. You got Ryan Strome. Ryan Strome's a good player. You traded him away for Ryan Spooner. It was a circle, I think. Like, they got Spooner in a trade, and then they traded. It was a whole thing. But bottom line is, that's ridiculous. Like, it's not. That's not how it should be. It's not. That's not an excuse to trade somebody away. Now, to wrap it up, I'm just going to give a brief little talk about the playoffs. Brief little talk. First round matchup, the boys in blue versus the Boston Bruins. Now, ideally, if the Leafs can turn it on, they can beat the Bruins in the first round. Everybody says, oh, the Leafs are going to lose. They don't have enough grit. They don't have this. They don't have that. The Leafs may not have as much grit as the Bruins, but the Leafs are faster. The Leafs skate better. Looking at the stats of the Bruins compared to the Leafs, the Bruins have 3 guys above 25 goals. That's it. Nobody else. Everybody else is below. Marchand, Pastrnak, and Bergeron. That's it. You've got a first line. The Leafs' first line is Hyman, Tavares, Marner. Second line, Janssen, Matthews, Nylander. Third line, Kapanen, Marleau, Kadri. Fourth line, Ennis, Gauthier, and Connor Brown. Now, looking at the 4 lines that the Leafs have versus the 4 lines that the Bruins have, you may think, oh, the Leafs will be a shoo-in then if we're just going to run strictly on lines. But the Bruins run on a system. Now, that system is understood by all the players who step on the ice every night for the Bruins. Every night. They understand the system, and it's worked for them. They're 101 points. They're second in the league. Second in the Eastern Conference at least. In the league, I'd have to check. Overall, the Bruins are second in the league. 77, Games played, 103 points. 103 points. Standings overall, look at the conference. I may have misjudged. Oh, excuse me. The Coyotes have 81 points and the Avalanche have 83 points. So technically speaking, the Coyotes would have to win a game to be tied with them. I was looking at the games, excuse me. That's my bad. Looking at the points, to consider myself, Edmonton is more likely to be out of the playoff race, but there's no point that, again, they wouldn't be in 11th spot without Draisaitl and McDavid. To fix that up, excuse me, I don't know why. I was reading the games played. Looking at games played, I was looking at the wrong spot, my bad. But still stands to show it. Getting back to the conference, looking back at the team, those 4 lines, that system is the reason why where they are. Come playoff time, though, stats don't matter. You've got guaranteed 4 games against a team. Now, the fact that the Leafs and the Bruins are for sure playing means one thing. It's not going to be a sweep, first of all. Second of all, the Leafs have every opportunity to beat this team. They have every opportunity to do it. During the season, Bruins won the season series. Going into the playoffs, that doesn't matter. Throw away the stats. Throw away everything. What matters is the showing up, playing playoff hockey, and just skating your heart out for 60 minutes every night. Now, the Leafs have shown that they can do that. They've shown against some good teams that they can play with them. They've played with Tampa Bay. They've beaten Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has 122 points. 122. No one's going to catch them. No one was going to catch them in January. The point is, though, if the Leafs can play with Tampa Bay and beat them, they can easily beat Boston. It's what Leaf team shows up. And what Leaf team has to consistently show up. They need to show up with all four lines. And to quote Babcock, start on time. They don't start on time. They started on time last night. And then it was like, yes, we're doing what we're doing. Well, and then they dropped off. They need to be up here every game for that 7-game series. The chances of it going to 7 games are high. They're even higher. The chances of the Leafs winning the series is high if they just show up and play their game, because they're faster than the Bruins. They will tire the Bruins out with speed and skill. The minute any neutral zone ice opens up, they're gone. And even if the neutral zone's closed, dump the puck in and go for it. You got to turn into grit. They've got to turn into a gritty kind of style team to be able to compete with the Bruins a little bit more. Matthews has shown that he can throw the body a little bit more. He's a big guy. Like, the guy's over 200 pounds, and he's tall. He's 6'3". He's a big guy. He can throw the body. We all know John Tavares can throw the body. Get into the corners. We all know, these guys can get into the corners. It's just a matter of if they want to or not. You got to show the heart. Showing heart in the playoffs especially is what will win you not only a game in the playoffs, but a series. If the entire team shows up and plays, they will win the series. Now, also a big part of that is goaltending. That jersey right there is Frederik Andersen. Now, he said he needs to get his swagger back. They started him last night. The odds, they were talking about this on Sportsnet before the game. They would give Freddie a certain number of games, and those are the games he's going to start. Other than that, Sparks will start the rest. Now, if I were the coach and the GM, I would give Freddie 3 games the rest of the season, get him ready to go, maybe play him against Montreal in the last game, get him warmed up, rest him. Sparks isn't great, but he's shown that he can play, and he's a decent goaltender. He's good. I don't know if he's fully NHL ready, but there's nothing we can do about that now. He can play. He can win games. He can do it. He can absolutely win games. And he's a good goalie. He showed that in the AHL. He should be a bit more ready for the NHL than he's shown, but he's ready to go. He won the Calder Cup last year. He knows how to win. He knows how to play hockey. If he can play and he can show that he can win some games, it'll be easier for them to start. It'll be easier for them to start him, because they're kind of worried because they don't want to fluke around. They're starting Freddie, but they want to rest him, but they don't know about Sparks. You can tell they don't know how well Sparks is going to play, so they play Freddie. If Sparks can just play his game, keep it calm, keep relaxed, don't worry about what everybody's saying, just play your game, he'll be fine, and nobody will worry. They'll be able to rest Freddie with a bit more comfort. Freddie will be ready to go for the playoffs, and when it comes to playoff hockey, he just has to stand on his head. He has to play like he has. He can play for playoff hockey, and he knows what he's doing. He knows how to win a series. He did it with Anaheim. He can easily do it here. He's almost done it here a couple of times. I know Washington was only 6 games, but, come on. We could have easily gone to Game 7 with them, no problem. It was in overtime. Nobody thought they would make it that year. Freddie stood on his head, and he played really well, and the Leafs played really well. Every game, almost every single game went to overtime. But coming into this year against Boston with all the hype and all the critics saying that the Leafs have no chance, they can easily win it. It's just a matter of, is everybody going to show up, and can Freddie have his ultimate year? Can Freddie have an ultimate playoff season? He can play his game at the top. If he can be at the top of his game, everybody knows he can be, that's the only way the Leafs will win. That is absolutely the only way they can win. And if he can do that, then the Leafs will be good. The Leafs will be fine. They'll be fine in the playoffs. They'll be able to take Boston, and I'll be able to talk to you in the second round. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked it. Click a like if you like it. Subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much.